Cool. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Lauren and Kyle here. I think everybody who's on the line was here on the last tour, so this is going to be awesome because it's not rainy and you'll actually be able to see some things. Where do you want to head first, babe?
We can just go right down the line, I guess.
You want to go down the line? That's the same stuff they saw last time. So I wasn't sure if you want to go further down.
Well, yeah, I thought we'd do a zigzag, I guess, or we could just go straight down here.
Yeah, let's go this way.
Take a left.
Cool. I'm going to put the camera on you and you can talk about what you're looking at.
All right. So this is our onion field, which looks pretty weedy, but it's actually not too bad. Pretty tough to keep onions clean, but if you want to, I don't know if you can get
Oh, yeah.
a decent look at some of them, but they're coming in pretty good.
They look awesome.
They're getting ready to harvest. We just harvested the Walla Wallas, which you've gotten in your box now a couple times.
How many beds of onions do we have here?
We have 12 beds of onions, so mostly yellow, but we have shallots and red onions as well, and then the sweet Wallas, as we said, that we just got out of the field, and we'll be starting the curing process for the next couple weeks. And that's just taking them and putting them in the greenhouse and letting them get dry, and then cutting the tops off and letting them really dry down and be great for storage for the next few months.
Yeah, so as you all know, probably, because you've already gotten a couple weeks of onions, like Kyle was saying, we've done 2 weeks of Walla Wallas. Those were the first 2 beds at the top of the field. We just cleared the 3rd bed because they're starting to rot a little bit. It's time to get them out. They are too moist. So that 3rd bed is curing in the cooler, and you'll get those in the CSA this week. And then probably a week off while we wait for the yellow onions to start drying. Ooh, nice, Kyle. And then we'll start doing those. So it's pretty awesome. Kyle is looking at the beans right now, this beautiful bean patch we've been checking on and taking a lot of pictures of.
So there's the yellow beans, just doing those because those are probably easiest to see in the video.
Are there any purple yet?
There's some purple.
So we're growing, hold on, I have to admit one person into the call. Hi, Carly. We are growing green, yellow, and purple beans this year. So Kyle's just seeing if he can see any purples. Can you see any?
They're a little later.
Ooh, there's a couple. I
starting.
don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know what the sun quality is like. That's gorgeous. But so yeah, we've got 7 beds, 6 beds, 7 beds of beans. And so those will be harvesting Monday, Tuesday. Monday. So those will be in the CSA boxes this week. They do take a long time to harvest. Do you want to go through the tomatoes?
Yeah. I don't know if we got to those or not.
We did a quick view of the tomatoes and we ran away from the storm.
I can see how high that they are starting to get here.
Yeah, they are tall. So here, I'm going to put the camera on Kyle.
So yeah, these are probably a bit taller than the quick version that you saw last time. But you can kind of see we're getting the tomato walls. It starts to become a jungle. But all of these are the cherries, which are always kind of the tallest. And we have 7 rows of those, and I think 8 or 9 varieties. And yeah, the rest are slicers. But
yeah, do you want to stand next to these bottom 2 rows just so they can really see how tall they are? It's crazy.
Yep, it gets wild. They'll keep growing. Some people draw some 10 feet taller, but it's a lot of work.
You want to show them some ripe ones? Look at that cluster.
Yep, so the reds are just starting
here.
Woo!
I haven't seen any red ones yet. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, so we, as you saw, as I was so mean to show you all on Facebook and Instagram, we harvested like the first couple pints of cherry tomatoes this week. We ate them all. Sorry. Not sorry. But yeah, we'll definitely be harvesting the cherry tomatoes this week as well. Probably again, Monday or Tuesday. And we don't know how many we'll get. The first harvest is always a bit of a mystery. So probably everyone won't get them. So we're thinking we might do a carrots or cherry tomato situation. But a lot of you are definitely going to get the first cherry tomatoes this week. Let me just see who all is in the call. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions so far? Since it's a small group, I figured we'll do some more pauses and you all can ask questions if you have questions about the field, what you're seeing, the CSA, things you've received so far. Feel free to just interrupt us and ask questions, but I'll give you a couple seconds. Awesome. This beautiful field, it looks like Kyle tilled between or mowed between today. This looks beautiful, babe.
Yeah, it looks a little better.
Do you do this today?
No, I did this yesterday.
Nice.
Last night. Yeah, cows are still doing all right, and their Swiss chard is a lot more visible than what it once was.
Yeah, it looks nice. So this is the chard that was in your boxes this week. I would say chard is probably our weediest field. Do you think so? Yeah, chard always gets a little out of control, but as you can see the collards here, they look super, super nice. Kyle's looking for an eggplant to show you. Nice. There's a giant eggplant. I don't know if you can see that. Ooh, and another one. There's another one. There's a cute little Japanese one.
There's the striped one.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's very pretty.
Super pretty. So we got the oops, someone else just joined. I'll admit them in. Hi Noel. We got the eggplant in a couple weeks behind schedule this year because we were really focused on getting the peppers and the tomatoes in as early as possible. So the eggplant's a little behind, but the tomatoes and peppers are a little ahead. So we're pretty happy with that arrangement. Not too shabby. We had we're about a week earlier on the tomatoes this year, and I would say about a week later on the eggplant. But we'll be harvesting both this week for the CSA boxes.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. That should be great.
I think we might have looked at this last time, but why don't you show them this?
So yeah, it's the zucchini and cucumber fields. It's our first planting, so it's starting to get some disease.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's producing very well.
We've just started harvesting the second field.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, is we'll show them the second planting so you can kind of see the difference.
But we've been harvesting this since when then? The last week of June? Almost a month now?
Yeah, I would say, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So almost all the zucchinis in your CSA boxes so far are from this planting. So the fact that they still look this good, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yep. No, they sure do. They sure do. And then this is, you can show them, that was where the garlic came from, which was, we had to use a different tool than we thought. We used the chisel, a single chisel to dig underneath of the garlic, so that way we didn't have to pitchfork the whole bed. As you can see, it was pretty weedy, but we got them out and saved our backs a lot.
We'll talk about that process a little bit in the newsletter this week. We might be giving the first of the garlic this week. We might give it as fresh garlic. We'll see if we can wait a week or two. If we have enough items in the box, we might hold on. But you might be getting the garlic this week. Either way, we'll tell you about the harvesting process because, yeah, as Kyle said, it was pretty awesome to be able to use a piece of equipment and the tractor to dig it instead of a pitchfork like we have every other year. Same with the carrots. I know I talked about that in this week's newsletter already, but we were able to use the subsoiler for the carrot harvest, so we didn't have to pitchfork those either. So those are some pretty huge wins we had this week, I would say.
So here's a very pretty field.
Very pretty field.
Leeks and celeriac, 4 beds of each.
I'm gonna go this way so the sun's behind.
Yeah. And we're trying some different spacing with the celeriac to see if we can figure out what yields best and what grows best. So a couple of different spacings there. But yeah, the leeks, we have.
They look awesome, babe.
Different varieties. Yeah, they're coming in real nice. They very slow growing, but.
Do you want to go for a walk?
Like here soon.
So when did you plant these leeks, Kyle?
Let's see. The first one was in the middle of May.
Middle of May.
Yep, and then they're a tedious one, so we kind of do it in a 2-week process. But yeah, 1 week we kind of did these first 2 beds, and those are 100 and 110 days to maturity, so very long. And
so
then,
4 months till they're ready.
And then the next week we did the shorter day, the King Richard, which is a 75 day, and that's more for earlier non-frost hardy leeks. So you harvest those early, and these other ones they can freeze and unthaw and freeze and unthaw. Quite
so
a few times before they rot out on you.
That's crazy. So the King Richard is what will be going into the September boxes?
Correct.
Awesome, because those
All
other
goes
ones can
well.
handle the cold.
Yeah, well, they grow faster, and then they're just not cold tolerant. Yep, exactly.
So this is a very beautiful field, everyone. Things don't often look this weed free. This is incredible. Did we tarp this, Kyle?
This had a crop that was fabricked the year prior, and so anytime that is the case, we were trying to just lift that fabric and do a cover crop into that without tilling, to not bring in the more weed seed. And then that following year, when you do incorporate it, you do it shallow, and it keeps it pretty weed free. But we also will sometimes do double tarping, which we did for the leeks. That's right. We didn't do for the upper ones, but we did do that for the leeks. And that's just laying a tarp, which
you can kind of see it over here. We'll walk over there so you can see both processes. So here to our right, that zucchini patch we already walked by. We're walking past it on the other side now. You can see all that black in between the zucchini. That is landscape fabric, reusable landscape fabric that we like to use instead of plastic. So yeah, as Kyle's saying, we have a few different crops that we use this landscape fabric with. So it's winter squash, summer squash, melons, tomatoes, hemp. Those are the 5 that we use.
Yep.
So this field will be landscape fabric pretty much all season, which is really, really good for killing those weeds. So weeds will just keep germinating under there, keep trying to grow under there, and getting killed, because water can get through. So the weed seeds will keep germinating, but they can't grow because of the black landscape fabric. So they'll just we'll keep kind of like clearing the seed bank, you'd say. And then what Kyle was saying, by double tarping, as you can see here, walk a little faster so we can get to it closer. We have a couple of these huge tarps. Is this called the silage tarp, or is this landscape fabric again?
It's woven ground cover is its official name.
So this is woven ground cover.
The landscape fabric.
So it looks the same as our landscape fabric, but it's one giant sheet, like 60 by 100? 40 by 100?
Is kind of on the upper end that you can get it. And this is a thinner version because it's so heavy. When you get the normal, you can't get the heavier stuff in this big, but it really does still last, and it's permeable, so it lets the water through.
And so again, this is doing that same awesome thing that the landscape fabric does year to year. It's like, is it called stale seed bedding?
Yep.
No, that's not what you should. Oh, I was wondering what you were smelling. Let's go.
Who can I hear? I can hear somebody. I'm gonna mute you real quick. So we were just talking about this tarping and the stale seed bed that it creates. So what are we gonna plant here next, Kyle?
This is intended for roots, which is often used for roots because they're tough to keep clean, and you're not putting a transplant in the ground, so it doesn't have that jump start to it. And so things like carrots that take a long time, you really want as many weeds gone as possible when you first plant them. But even beets and what, any kind of radish, just really any kind of root. You want it to be as clean as possible with as many weed seeds germinated and killed off to begin with, just to give yourself a jump start on things. So, and
we have some pretty vicious grass here, which I actually haven't talked about too much in the newsletter yet, which just shows how good of a job Kyle has been doing at maintaining it. Landscape fabric and wheel hose really help us manage the weeds, but it's still, if you look around the edges of our fields, so all this grass that's on the edge of the watermelon fields, that's what we're dealing with in our fields. So we have to be pretty vigorous with the weeding and the weed techniques. So using the tarps has been huge. Using the landscape fabric has been huge. Really, really helps us not lose crops, because with grass that aggressive, if we don't get to something, if we don't weed something in 2 weeks, it might be totally buried, which is pretty crazy to think about. So Kyle's going to show you this awesome weeding tool. We bought this thing called a finger weeder last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and it is a game changer. I think I might do a demo for you.
I will try this real quick, but yeah.
I think you already weeded these beds, right? They look gorgeous.
We did these two.
Wow.
Yep.
They look real good. We planted these last Friday. Is that right? Last Thursday?
Something like that. Yep.
The last planting of leeks, some summer lettuce, and the second planting of parsley. Okay, I was going to show you how this weeder works here. So this is just human powered. Most of our weeding tools are human powered. And we can still pull that off on this scale. We're getting a little too big for that. But with awesome tools like this, it's pretty effective. So if you watch Kyle here, it's a wheel hoe. So it's got wheels in the front, and then it's got these little levers that can you lift it up for a second so they can see the levers? So there's those two, they're called sweeps, right?
Yep.
So they kind of cut the soil, is that
The
right?
sweeps, yeah, they're undercutting each side of the plant, and they're adjustable. You can make them go skinnier or farther apart with this little toolbar here, and then you have an extended toolbar in which these finger weeders, which is a fairly new tool, pretty revolutionary in the organic game, just because one of the biggest things is you could always weed between your crops, but you couldn't get in between the actual plants. You can get in the row, you can't get in row though. You can get between rows, I should say. And this has really changed it, because you can get these tractor mounted as well, but then you need everything tractor mounted. But so we have this manual one, and when you can get it right timing, I mean, you can make a really big job a lot easier. And so it's breaking this soil up, and it's not getting everything perfectly, but it does a darn good job.
And so what would the alternative to this be if we weren't using a finger weeder?
Right, so then it's just your stand-up hoe, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, like a stirrup hoe. And so you would clear each in between the row. Here with a wheel hoe, just a regular wheel hoe, which is not here. And then you'd take your stirrup hoe and you'd go in between each one, which
every single plant
is extremely difficult, very time consuming.
Very easy to kill plants because they're so tight together.
Yeah. It's one of the most frustrating things. It really is.
You think you're weeding and really you're killing like 10% of your bed. It's super frustrating. But the finger weeder, do a little more. He's just going to do this whole row. You can't stop him once you get him started weeding. It's just amazing. And you might be seeing all these little pieces of paper. Can I talk about what those are, Kyle?
Yeah. Yep.
So you can probably see, maybe, I don't know how good the camera quality is for all of you, but there's all these little tiny pieces of paper in this field. And you might be wondering, like, what is all that? Are those leaves? Like, what is that? Those are leftover remnants from the paper pot transplanter. So this field, before it had the lettuce, the parsley, and the leeks in it, it had a bunch of spring lettuces and our spinach. Our spinach was actually right here. And both of those crops were paper potted in. We did a demo of the paper pot on our Instagram. We'll have to do another one for you sometime because it is such a cool device. Our friend Kelly Lagman from One Seed Farm purchased it, and we are borrowing it. We went kind of halvesies on some of the stuff, trying it out to see if we want one for our farm or not. And so we were able to transplant a bunch of stuff with that tool. So it literally, we seed into soil in paper pots, and then those paper pots go straight into the ground. It is approved for organic use. It just was recently approved, so that's why we didn't ever previously, but it makes transplanting really tiny crops so much easier. And then, yeah, the paper will just biodegrade by next year. So that's pretty incredible. We're pretty happy with that. Kyle's still going here. He's almost done. Boom, whole row done. Someone named Kevin said the fields were really beautiful, Kyle.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to guess that's his dad, just a guess. Thank you, Kevin.
Dad.
Does anyone have any questions while we're down here? And then I bet Kyle's going to show us the watermelon. Any questions while we walk on over to the watermelon? I can unmute you if you can't figure it out. Feel free to leave a comment in the chat too if you're more comfortable chatting instead of talking. Carly says sorry, she was talking to her dog. And yeah, I used the one between rows before. This is super cool. Yeah, the finger weeder makes us incredibly happy. And we've really kind of fine-tuned it. I feel like this year and last year too, the whole crew is trained on it. Everybody's pretty good at using it, but Kyle definitely uses it the most. It's his favorite. Any questions? All right, we will show you the watermelon. Oh my God, they're huge.
They're getting there. Yep, so you can see them.
Go close up.
Those are the yellow sunshine backed by popular demand.
I forgot we were doing yellow again.
Yep.
So those are a yellow fleshed watermelon. When they are ripe, they're yellow and they're super sweet. They're so good.
Yep. So, and then I don't know if we can find any other kind, but
2 varieties of watermelon down here, Kyle.
I believe there's 2 or 3. I'd have to look at the map. But we had some issues. These did not want to grow forever.
And now they are.
Now they are.
Very weird. We think that there's a slight dip in this field.
This field is like a bowl.
So we're guessing it collected too much water. Watermelons don't want, which ironically don't want too much water, but nothing.
Any plant early on doesn't want that much
Exactly.
water. They just rot out. They really do.
But the fact that they're coming back is actually kind of surprising. I thought
Well, you never want to walk into watermelon until you're ready to harvest it. So that's why I don't really. They're very.
Is this a new one? This one's darker.
Delicate. Oh, yep. There's one.
There's one. What's that one
There's
called?
Over there too. Yep.
So there is the yellow melon with the greener skin. This has a darker skin. What is this one?
I think that's Mini Love.
Mini Love. Adorable.
Which did stay as it. Yeah, there's a darker one.
Nice. And we intentionally, one thing interesting about our watermelons and the melon, just because it is more manageable, we're going for more fruits but smaller in size, as opposed to some farmers are obviously growing the biggest yields possible. We're looking for more fruits but smaller, so they fit in those boxes. They're easy for you. We have enough for everybody is the goal.
Yep, exactly. And they seem to be a little sweeter when they're a little smaller, especially the couple varieties was our go-tos now. And then
all those crazy yellow flowers there.
It's all muskmelon, so all cantaloupe. So we're keeping our fingers crossed again, because it always looks like that, and then it can be not as good as you want it to be.
Watermelon or
They're
cantaloupe is a
tricky.
super tricky crop. Super tricky.
For us, it's been tough.
They don't like our heavy soil. They rot really quickly.
So, but we'll see. Every year's different, so we'll see.
Every year's kind of an experiment, I would say, with the cantaloupe. And next to those, we've got the parsley and the lettuce and the leeks that we showed them. There's 3 empty beds here. What's going to go here, Kyle?
Those are going to be roots. So it was
the spinach.
Spring green. Yep. And so, yeah, it's going to be roots. So it's something kept quite clean. And then.
So again, as Kyle was saying earlier, we're picking our cleanest beds for things like roots, because like he was saying, we don't transplant them. We really, we need it to be smooth so it's easy to seed, but then also we need it to be clean so that it's easy to weed.
Yep.
So this is just an example of a really beautiful, clean bed.
For the most part.
For the most part.
We will rake it. There's grass in there.
A little more than we want.
Yeah. We'll rake a little bit of it just to make our lives easier in a couple of weeks when we go to weed it. So yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
It's fun to take you on these tours because you can see the stuff that's growing, but you can also learn a little bit more about the technique. Because we talk about a lot of this stuff in the newsletter, but I don't know, it's kind of boring when you can't see it. So yeah, we'll talk a lot in the newsletter about clean fields, and you might wonder what that means, but that's what we're talking about there, because it's really, really important for certain crops. I think Kyle's heading us to the peppers or the tomatillos.
Both.
Oh, perfect. There's some fennel here that we're harvesting for the boxes next week. You can see those happy little fronds right there. I don't have to show them, but I'm excited about it. The last of the scallions.
Looks like a weed field.
It looks a little weedy. That's
They're
how
in
things
there.
look right before they're harvested sometimes. Those are the scallions in your box this week, and there's maybe 20 pounds left that we'll probably sell to a restaurant. These tomatillos look awesome, Kyle.
Looking pretty decent, yeah.
We actually trellised them this year. That we didn't get a chance to do that last year, and harvesting was a nightmare. How are they looking?
They're getting there. Yep. There's a
Couple weeks still?
Yeah. Maybe even a week.
Wow.
You know, we'll see. It's going to be really hot, and
They'll love that.
they like it hot. So, yeah, we'll see what things do after this next week here.
But this is just an example of the volume of tomatillos. I mean, they just go crazy. Also, here's our dog. Here's Koya. But yeah, so tomatillos just go crazy on the vine. So that's once we do harvest them, we'll definitely have some big volumes, which is super fun.
And then this is our pepper field, which is always a struggle to keep clean. Koya, nope. And so this year we did we tried a new product out called a paper mulch. So instead of using a one-time use plastic mulch,
Single-use plastic.
We use this paper mulch, which degrades. It's organic approved, and it's just kind of putting carbon back into your soil. But you can see it's already degrading here. It's kind of crazy how
Pretty wild.
that happened, but apparently from everyone I talked to in the spring, it's totally gone. So what it's doing is just it's making it so we don't have to weed as much inside here. We're still having to weed the little holes that you make when you punch it out and when you plant it. But you can see this is the cleanest that we've had it. But even the ones that we haven't on paper mulch, we've done a really good job this year.
And were tomatoes here last year? What was here last year?
No. Tomatoes were up above.
Cucurbits?
Yeah, cucurbits was here. So something that's fabric.
Zucchini and summer squash. So it was fabric.
Trying to do peppers and something that has had a clean season-ish the year prior. But you can still see lots of grass. We've been trying to maintain it. We still have it, but we'll get that mowed and it'll look a lot better. But yeah, the paper mulch has definitely saved us. We did that in our hot peppers as well, which is a very weedy field.
Well, and an example of the weeding situation, again, just a good opportunity to talk about it. So this field was in landscape fabric last year, so that helps us stay ahead of the weeds. We've also weeded this pepper field 3 times. Definitely twice, possibly 3 times.
Yeah.
And you can still see these grasses. There's not much. I mean, it's pretty dang good. But that's just kind of gives you a good example of like what we're dealing with. So this crop was planted 2 months ago, in one of our cleanest fields, and we've already weeded it twice, and there's still some there. So that's kind of that's the cycle. That's what we're trying to figure out. So every year, if we rotate that landscape fabric through different fields and keep them clean, the idea is next year this will be even a little bit cleaner, and then we'll put something here that needs a clean seed bed, and then we'll keep that really well weeded. So ideally, you're diminishing your weed pressure over time is the goal. But it takes a long time when you're working somewhere as weedy as we are.
I mean, it's a lot of places. I mean, it's just the name of the game, but and you're not always perfect. I mean, you have stuff that will always go to seed almost every year.
And we're working in an area of the world that has super rich soil, which is obviously really good for growing veggies, but also means that weeds are pretty abundant. And it was farmed conventionally for many, many years before we took it over. So that also means those weeds are a little resistant because they were sprayed prior to our transitioning to organic. So the weeds are just a little bit more aggressive, I think, in areas like that.
Yeah, that could be.
My theories.
Yep, absolutely. But I mean, hay fields, hard to maintain a perfect hay field. And then those seeds, those weeds will get away, and it's amazing how many thousands of seed one plant can produce on some of them.
We'll just show the kale patch real quick. Okay. So this was our first kale patch, 6 beds here of lacinato and 2 of curly green kale. This was planted, one of the first things we planted in April. So we've been harvesting off that since late May. For you guys and for Willie Street Co-op, we sell lacinato kale to Willie Street Co-op. So a lot of that was going there. That's why we grow so much kale. And now we've got our second and third plantings in, just second planting.
Second.
Second planting in. So we'll do 3 plantings of kale again because we're selling so much to the co-op. So you won't be seeing as much later in the season. We go pretty hard with the greens in the spring just because they're fun. But we'll take a little bit of a break from greens pretty soon as we get into tomato and pepper season and kind of those heat of summer crops. Is this the cabbage?
It is.
Nice.
Yep. So it's a newly planted cabbage field. I'm sure it's almost impossible to see the tiny plants in there, but if you see those little green and red lines, that's the fall cabbage.
And why are they hooped, Kyle?
We'll put a row cover over them to just protect them from some of the little buggies, little flea beetles like to come out.
Row cover is this stuff right here that you're seeing over our squash
Yeah.
plants.
Which that's protecting them from other pests, but they also like it extremely hot, so it helps them grow quicker as well.
And are we waiting to cover the brassicas until after the heat wave of this weekend?
Well, so I can keep exactly.
Yeah.
So I can keep watering them without having to cover it. And yeah, that's exactly right. The super hot weekend, we just transplanted some stuff. It could cook them pretty quick.
We don't have to
You can
open
take a
these.
peek.
Do you want to? Okay, cool. They're bursting. This is such a fun time of year. So this is the winter squash field. Winter squash we keep under row cover until it's literally breaking out of the row cover because, as longtime members know, pests are vicious on winter squash crops and will kill them really, really fast.
One in particular.
Squash bugs?
No.
The squash vine borer. So these have been covered since we planted them, 6-7 weeks ago.
Yep.
So the plants are huge.
Huge. They're ready to burst at the seams, but end of July. We just got to make it through July, and we keep telling them that.
You keep telling the winter squash that?
Yep. They understand. And then we'll set them free.
So yeah, we'll uncover them in about a week here. And then the plants and the fruit should be far enough along that even if there is a...
No, the squash vine borer has a cycle.
Oh!
So you wait until they're done laying their eggs.
Oh, that'll be done by August?
It's end of July is when their cycle should be up.
This is why we do these tours, so I learn about farming too. He doesn't tell me these things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't always
I
listen.
can't remember everything. So second bean.
More beans. Really good year for beans, it seems. Both of our stands of beans are just gorgeous this year.
Quick hand weed and a mow between, and those will be looking great.
We got our heirloom tomatoes here. We don't need to go over there, but I can just show you. Nicely trellised again. So yeah, we've got those 14 rows of tomatoes over there in the distance. 16 rows of slicer and cherries, and then we've got 4 rows of heirlooms here. And then another 3 beds of plum tomatoes up top. We probably won't get to that. But yeah, lots and lots of tomatoes. Another watermelon planting here. This is the second planting, so there might be some baby melons, but they're not going to be as big as those other ones we showed you.
Nope, but it's a good looking field.
This is the carrot field, or the root field. The carrots are mostly gone now. We've got one more bed here. We'll harvest these this week for you. And then we've got some more for the fall. Any questions while we walk over to, are we going to squash, babe?
Yeah, corn squash.
Corn squash.
What the second planting looks like.
Any questions while we head over there? Again, feel free to just type questions into the chat or comments if you're not good at the muting and unmuting, which is totally fine.
So yeah, so if you kind of remember, the other ones are a little bit yellowing, a little rougher leaves, a bit bigger, taking over a little bit more. You can see this is our second planting, and kind of see there's some more space, how dark that green is still. Just some very healthy plants. We've been very happy with our squash and cukes this year, and you can see in the zucchini, kind of seeing that darker color, not quite as jungle-esque, but not as many dead ones from the cucumber beetles yet. So yeah, that's how you kind of get continuous harvest when you have such high disease and pest pressure. And
Because the thing with squash, oops, I'm gonna turn my camera back on. The thing with squash that Kyle's saying, squash will always get disease. They'll always get it. There's really no avoiding it. So the best way to get continuous squash, as he's saying, is to have multiple plantings. This is our first time having 3 plantings.
hopefully for a successful time.
We did it once before.
Correct.
Yeah.
We just got them in too late, so we'll see how the third planting does. But it's looking decent. But
So lots of zucchini still in your future.
yeah,
Plenty of
can't
zucchini.
get enough zucchini. And then there's our second planting of corn.
Ooh, they're looking good. Week and a half.
Yep. Exactly. So, yeah.
There's definitely some good ears on there.
Yep. All the outside ones are always the worst.
Kyle wants me to show you better ones. Hold on, he'll find a better one.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, those look awesome. So we planted these
Great.
2 weeks after the corn you received this week.
Right.
So on purpose because of pollination, cross-pollination.
Yep. So anytime you plant corn, if you're planting multiple successions, you have to have them either a certain distance apart, which can be pretty great, or minimum of 10 days, usually 14, to ensure that when they're tasseling and the pollen comes off, if they don't pollinate the other corn, and then you get some hybrid and might not taste quite as good. So, but that's how you do the transplanting of the corn. Yeah. All right.
And I did say in the event description that we talk a little bit about our hemp. There were some questions about it last time, which was super awesome. I mentioned it once in the newsletter. We'll probably mention it again, but we are growing hemp for hemp oil, and actually for smokable flour this year as well. But so this here is our hemp field. I'll let Kyle talk about it in a second. But we grew about 100 plants last year, harvested about 80 of them, and got them processed by a local processor. And so we are going to have bottles of hemp oil, certified organic hemp, with certified organic MCT oil. Is that what it's called?
Correct.
Coconut oil. Tastes super delicious. We're not doing any flavoring because it tastes so good as it is. And so we're going to have those for sale on August 1st if everything goes according to plan. We've already had to push back the date a couple times because it's a new product for us. There's just a lot of things to get in line, but we've got a bank account. We've got a logo. We just shared the logo today. We figured out who will accept payment processing. CBD and hemp are still like a newish industry. So everyone's still kind of learning how to do business there. So it's been tricky to find insurance and find a bank account. But we're getting all our ducks in a row. So hopefully at a minimum, we'll begin accepting pre-orders on Friday, August 1st, but hopefully we'll be ready to ship on Friday, August 1st. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, do you want to talk a little about why you're excited to grow hemp? Or this field, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. It's just, it's an exciting new plant with a lot of properties that I think are going to be very beneficial in the future. I mean, it's very early on
In the hemp industry.
in the hemp industry. Yep, exactly.
But Kyle's really excited by both the hemp oil that we're selling this year and the fiber, which we might get into in future years. He's really excited about both properties, both what it does for people's health and the potential it kind of has for the environment. But yeah, keep talking about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yep, but this is the field. This is the majority of it. I think we did around 250 plants ish, probably overall. But yeah, I just got done trimming them, bottom branching them, really just kind of cleaning them up, get better airflow. You try to promote this top growth so you can get some better flowers, some more sizable flowers, and have the energy going into the top part of the canopy and instead of that lower, which you're not getting too much from.
Because right now we're not growing any hemp for fiber yet. We really are interested in getting into that in the future. Right now, we're only growing hemp for the flower.
Yep. And there's new businesses. I'm always trying to keep a little bit updated on on the new things, but they're getting better at being able to use the fiber, since that's more abundant right now from the CBD plant, because the CBD derived strains are kind of totally different than the hemp, like ones that are made for fiber, because the fiber plant is really skinny and it grows really tall, and that fiber is great for certain products, and they're finding a lot of different uses since this is more abundant right now for that. So hopefully, if we can link up with the right people, we can send our
even this year?
potentially, yeah.
Cool.
Because what they said is when you're done and you just kind of let your stalks dry out a little bit, and even just put them out in a rainy season to wet them, which is just kind of starts the breakdown process, which is what you need to do, and then you can kind of ship that out to certain businesses that are able to use it. So hopefully you can connect the dots when the time is right.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. See, still learning about things.
So always learning. We're always learning. So, but yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to see how it performs in our crop rotation. And as you see, we use the fabric to suppress the weeds, but then we're gonna pull that up and put a clover down in that, so hopefully get a really good cover crop established. So it'll be great for the next season and the next crop that goes in there, because ideally you're not trying to do any crop in the same place over and over. So but we'll see how that goes, but it's very exciting, but very early on, so it's just exciting to see where the industry goes and everything about it, really.
It's exciting to get into a new product. We really, really are jazzed to have something that's shelf stable, because, as you know, produce is very seasonal in Wisconsin. And you kind of got to move it quickly when it's ready. So having something that we grow that can be processed, that we really, really believe in, that's just really healthy and helpful to people, is just so much fun. And that we can kind of have that product to sell year round, and not have to squeeze so much of our work into a short season. Just feels like maybe it's going to be a really good balance to veggies. So we'll still be growing veggies for a long time, but it's fun to add that into our crop mix.
I just want to show, if we can,
the tininess of carrots.
The reasons they're super hard is, you want to bring the camera down? That's what they are after 2 weeks of being in the ground.
2 weeks.
That tiny. You can see all those little ones, but
Maybe you can.
I'm hoping so. Yeah, maybe my shadow's in the way.
See those tiny little seeds? They're so tiny. Bless you. Bless you. He's allergic to the carrot field.
But we just weeded these.
So this field doesn't just look this good. We just weeded this. We spent how long? 2 hours? 3 people, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Minimum?
Maybe a little more. Yep. And so it's and this is after, and that was a fairly clean bed. There was not a lot of weeds. There was only one real bad spot for about 10 feet. But yeah, so that's just to give you an idea of how long it takes and kind of the tediousness of carrots.
The other thing that's really tricky about carrots is because they do have that tiny little shoot. You saw the leaves, they're tiny. They're slow to germinate, which is challenging. So they take a week to 10 days to germinate, which means all of the weeds have a very good chance of growing faster than that tiny little leaf is. So like finding those leaves and weeding it is really tricky, but also they're so delicate that we have to keep the soil moist, or as moist as possible, while the seeds are germinating, because our soil is really heavy. And if it rains really hard, if it rains really hard, it can wash all the seeds out. We actually had that happen this year. We planted our second planting of carrots, and then we had like 3 inches in 2 hours and all the carrot seeds washed out. So that was awful. So that's one issue, but then also it can rain really hard, and then if it's dry for a week after that heavy rain, the soil will kind of get that crust on it, and then the carrot seeds won't be able to germinate through it. So carrots are really, really tricky for a lot of reasons. And we just weeded them, but we're also going to have to thin them, which means making room so that the carrots can grow bigger. We'll be sacrificing a few size up better. And then we'll have to weed them a few more times, definitely. And it's crazy. And that's just the growing. That's not even the harvesting, which is also pretty labor intensive. So yeah, we're really excited that we had such beautiful carrots for you this week, because that's a process getting there.
It sure is.
Any other questions for us? Otherwise, we're gonna turn it over to Rami and Sarah if they're still here. Yep, they are. Awesome. Just gonna pop in the chat real quick. How often do you have to irrigate the fields? Kevin asked. Kyle, you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's weather dependent. We had to early on. We actually had a semi-dry spring for once. Ideally, a good general rule is about 1 inch of rain per week. So you you calculate that out with your drip tape or your sprinklers to know how much to apply. Newly seeded or newly transplanted, if you're not going to get a rain, then you'll have to always water those in. Anything that is transplanted, if it's not if it's not going to rain in that next hour really, or 100% at night, you always should water them in. And then if it's really hot, like the cabbage we saw, I just watered those in last night again because it's gonna be so hot to dig deep to get their roots into some deeper water.
Yeah, young plants definitely take a bit more while they're getting established, as Kyle's saying, as the roots are growing. Especially with this crazy hot spell. But yeah, we don't have to irrigate too often. Our soil is really heavy. And usually we get too much rain. That's kind of been the trend for the last several years. We did have a dry spring, which was awesome because we were able to get into the ground more. We had to irrigate the baby plants then, which was a little labor intensive, but it still allowed us to plant on schedule, which was really, really great. I would say we only had to irrigate for like those 2 weeks, right? That it was like really dry. And then new plants, obviously, newly transplanted things. Maybe more than that.
Maybe a little more than that, but 2 to 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, not terrible. And yeah, like Lauren's saying, the soil really holds it, which is great.
Any other questions? Let's face this way, so we're not totally blocked out. Any other questions? Not that funny. All right. If not, Rami, do you know how to unmute yourself, or do you want me to do it?
I got it.
Look at him. Awesome. So real quick, I'm going to let Kyle keep working because he just took a break because apparently we're not done. I thought we were having a party. We're not having a party. I drank a beer. But so I'm going to let Kyle go back to the Nebraska plants. Cool. And I will just kind of mediate. But everyone, this is Rami here. He is our apple farmer. So we've got I think we've got like 4 or 5 people on Rami, but it is recording. So we'll share it with the full CSA afterwards. So feel free to be as wordy or as not wordy as you'd like.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. So, let's see. I guess I can just start about telling you guys about the farm here. And most of these trees were planted in 2015, so they're going on their 5th year. I'm going to switch this so you don't see my ugly mug. I think I can do that. Yep, here. There you go. So you can see the way, it's kind of not the traditional way of the old way of planting trees. So it's more of a high density system. So the trees are planted every 3 feet and they're on a dwarf rootstock, which keeps them, 10 or 11, 12, 13 feet tall or so. So what that does, it just makes it easier to manage. You can see how all the apples are kind of out in the sun, hopefully, instead of buried deep in the foliage, and that helps with pests and diseases and things. And kind of, the way I planted my orchard, each row or a couple rows are different varieties. I have now there's about 40 varieties or so. So, I mean, what that does for people who eat these apples is that, I pick a certain variety, say first week of September, and usually it doesn't last that long. It's sold in 2 weeks, so they're always super fresh. So, yeah, so instead of saying, let's say we had 5 varieties for 10 weeks of harvest, by the time you got to the end of October, you might be eating some kind of mushy stuff, which is not good. So, big truck going by. But yeah, so what you're looking at here, these are called Crimson Topaz, and that is more of a first week of October apple, and it's a disease-resistant apple. Well, it's actually just disease-resistant to scab, which is a fungal disease, but it does get other issues going on it. But if you can escape and not get scab, then you've got at least a foot up in the apple production game. So yeah, so I don't know if you can see down there, these rows they're getting pretty long. They're about 350 feet long now or so. And I am up on the hill just to make sure I got good reception up here. And it's also a really pretty area too, pretty nice. And then, so up here, I don't know, there's like 15 rows. And then kind of the main orchard, if you can see, is down there. I just saw a bird fly out of the Zestar row. They're probably starting to eat Zestar, so that's not good. But so you can see the main orchard's kind of down there, and there's my barns. And so, I pick and bring them down to the barn and pack them and put them in bags or sell them however through the CSA there or to some farmers markets and other ways. And down there's another block down there. You can kind of see here in between the blocks of apples, this whole area I have been burning and throwing in prairie seed. I mean, it doesn't look like much now because it's all full of Queen Anne's lace, but there's a lot of cool little plants in here, and takes time, but it's great for butterflies and other beneficials and pollinators and things. So yeah, if obviously if you guys have any questions, just type them in. I can keep going here till my phone dies, but I could show you this. These guys, this is, if people know apples, this is called golden russet. So that's like a russet apple, which is it's kind of a family of apples, and they're russeted like a potato russet on them. So if people have seen those, but golden russet's really good. It's like sweet and tart and real crunchy later, mid-October, I guess. But so these got put in this year, so you can kind of see more of the trellis system there. And these are black locust posts, which I harvested for a friend, was trying to restore some prairie area. So that was each of those 14-foot posts weighed about 45,000 pounds when they were cut. So not that.
That's
a little
crazy.
less when they're dry, but they're supposed to stay good for 50 years in the ground. So we'll see about that. I do grow some pears too in kind of a similar setup. Pears don't really have a good dwarfing rootstock like apples do. So this is somewhat of an experiment to see if they will kind of keep their height. So those guys, that's 8 feet, another 8. So they're probably about 15 feet tall. But I mean,
Wow.
I'm sure it's hard to tell, but they've kind of stopped growing up on the top. They had kind of a bad winter. That winter it got -31, but but they've got quite a few pears on them, and that will slow down their growth. So that'll be exciting to get some pears this year.
Do you, well, first there was one question in the chat, Rami, just are you certified organic?
Yep, certified organic.
And just so everyone knows, Rami is our apple farmer. So we offer the add-on shares. That's why he's collaborating with us. And all of the add-on shares we do have to be certified organic. If they're produce, they have to be certified organic. So yeah, Rami's apples are certified organic, and the delivery doesn't start until, is it April or August 6th? Is that the first box, Rami?
No, I think it's a little bit later than that. Might be the next week. I think we pushed it a week off, but I knew you were going to ask me that, and I should know, but
I should know too. But there's so there's going to be 5 weeks of apples delivered this year through the CSA, delivered every other week on Purple Weeks. So you can still sign up for that. You're not sold out yet, Rami, are you?
Nope. I still got more if you guys want them. Yeah. I think it should be a good. I mean, every year has been pretty good, but the trees are getting older and able to support more apples. So it's kind of fun not to be able to, or not to have to kind of scrounge for apples every time there's some demand. I'm hoping to have them in the cooler for a couple days, take them out when need them, and hopefully even get some pears to you guys and stuff. So that'd be fun.
Oh, fun. And how, did you say how many trees you have?
So the whole orchard it's about 4 acres, which is not that much, but when you plant trees every 3 feet apart, there's 1,200 trees per acre. So,
Wow.
so it's like 4,500 trees or so. And, yeah, it's a lot of trees, but pretty much my space is all taken up. My farm is not nice and flat like you guys. I've got all these hills and everything. So, and a lot of big oak trees and things. So kind of all the good spots are taken, and that's good to have a limit like that for me anyway. So
is that your homestead down there? Are those your barns?
Yep. Yeah. So that's
so beautiful.
That's the equipment. And then if the new shed right there is, that's where I pack apples, and there's a cooler in there and stuff. So yeah.
And you press cider too, right?
Yep. And so pressed cider in there, which you can get that off the farm or farmers markets and stuff. And actually this year during the winter, the Wisconsin apple growers have a contest. And so I won the apple cider contest this year.
Holy shit. Congrats.
You don't get to boast very often in this line of work.
So Rami did do his his cider through the CSA the last 2 years. But with us working through drop sites, it was just too hard to keep it cold. But I don't know, maybe Rami, who knows if we're actually going to be able to have a fall party or not, but in future years, maybe we should have we should have you bring a bunch to our fall party, and you can just sell it to folks, because I know members loved it. It was just, it was too hard for us to keep it cold, which was such a bummer.
It is.
Because amazing. You do these blends with some tart apples instead of just sweet apples, and it's, oh my gosh, it's so delicious, your cider. I love it.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Award-winning cider.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I can keep going here, but maybe we should let the next person go.
Yeah, sounds good. We just had one more question.
Okay.
Do you have varieties that you would recommend for pie that you grow?
Absolutely. So when I used to grow, so I've been growing apples in Wisconsin for about 15 years. But I planted this place about 5 years ago. And so when I picked the varieties I wanted, I like crisp, tart, tangy, little bit of sweet, but the crunch and everything is to me what matters a lot, and the kind of tart, tangy flavor. So a lot of my apples are like that, but I did plant a couple that are great for pies and sauce and things, and they're kind of spread out through the season. First ones that are really good for sauce and kind of like a mushy pie would be Dandy Red. And then later in the season, there's Harrelson. And then after that, there's Crimson Gold. Yeah. So there's a lot of them. And, you know, when I give you guys, if you're getting apples, then I'll definitely try to put a little blurb in the Facebook CSA thing of what these apples are, what they're good for. And, you know, sometimes in a bag, I'll give you 2 different varieties. Sometimes it'll be 1 variety, but I mean, what you know is that they're going to be good to eat and fresh and crisp and all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah.
They're so good. They're so good. That's awesome, Rami. Thank you so much for joining in. Feel free to stay on or hop off. No pressure.
Thanks, Lauren.
Cool. Thanks. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye.
All right. Sarah, are you still on here? Sorry for making you wait for so long.
I am here. No, that's all right. And I
Awesome.
heard you say party, so I do have a drink too. So cheers. So
Thank you. Kyle wouldn't play. He'll play with me.
so my name's Sarah, and my husband Kenny and I and our 2 girls, Macy and Nola, are the owners of Wells Farms. And I am not at our home farm today because it's hay season. So Kenny is here making hay at our Sun Prairie location farm. We have about 50 acres of just pasture ground here. So I can kind of turn it around and show you. I'm on the back 10 acres. And there's some cows there. So what we have here are our replacement heifers and a bull. So these are calves that we had born about last year, and they will be part of our herd. So they are here grazing. They were just bred a few weeks ago. So that's what we have here. And then here you can kind of see, this is just where they've been grazing. And then through the fence up there is another 40 acres, and Kenny is making hay on part of it now, which is very exciting for us because this is just the second year that we've made our own hay. And the first year we're doing it with all of our own equipment. So last year we borrowed everything, borrowed everything. So over the last year we've acquired a mower and a tedder and a rake. And so he's been doing that all this week, and then we'll have someone come bale it tomorrow. So that's pretty exciting. Before that, our cows would spend the summer here, and we rented barns. So a little backstory, we moved here from Ohio, it'll be 6 years in November, for my husband's off the farm job. We had cattle in Ohio, and so we just up and moved the whole thing here. Where we're at now in Sun Prairie, we actually live like a quarter mile from here. This location, we had bought a house in 1 acre, left our cows in Ohio for the first year with a friend to manage, and then made connections because we don't have any family. We knew no one when we moved here. Made connections, rented some property, rented a barn, and moved the cows here. And so then about 4 years ago, we were approached by the owners of this property there. You may know them, the Bear Wolves that own Sassy Cow. Their father had passed away, and he had this land here, and they wanted to sell it. So we purchased the 50 acres here, and we're able to summer our cows here for a couple years. And then 2 years ago, we sold our house just a quarter mile from here and bought a house, barns, and 22 acres about 10 miles north of here between Sun Prairie and Rio, so that we could have everything in one spot. So that's been a huge, huge game changer for us. So it's been great. We have Angus and Angus crossbred cattle that we raise for beef. And we've been doing that for 3 years now, we have always sold the cattle before as breeding stock to other farmers. And then after we moved here, I kind of pressured Kenny into what are we doing with this hobby that's costing us lots of money. And so he gave me a few to sell as just quarters and halves of beef. And then it just kind of grew from there. So now we not only do this partnership here, but sell at farmers markets, online bundles, restaurants, still do the quarters and halves. So that's kind of,
I don't know if anyone, I can't remember everyone who's involved in the beef add-on share. So I don't know if anyone here is part of the beef CSA. But if they're not, they can just go to your website if they want beef. Is that right?
Well, with with this year, usually, typically,
Yeah.
or find
Yeah.
us at the farmer's market. This year's been a little different with everything that's going on in the world. We have been selling quite a bit of beef. So being able to restock what we have for online bundles has been a challenge, to be able to manage the markets, the CSA, the quarters and halves, the restaurants, and keep online supply. So you could just contact us to shop at the farm, or come see us at a farmer's market, Sun Prairie or the Rio Market.
Cool. So
And
you're doing farmers markets.
yes.
Cool.
Yep. So one of the challenges with this industry is processing. So we're kind of just limited by that, even more so now, with large packing plants closing and forcing more cattle into local markets. It's made it hard to get butcher appointments. But so like right now I'm completely out of steaks, other than the lucky CSA members that were able to get steaks because I have packaged all their stuff up early. So advantage of being a member is to get all that stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. Like going to the farmers market is great and buying online is great, but it definitely has been apparent to us through all of this crazy food purchasing and everything that just actually having a really deep relationship with your farmer and actually like investing in them for a season it's definitely like the safest and most secure way to make sure you're getting like the high quality food that you want. It's been a pretty wild ride for a lot of farmers, I know.
Yeah, it's been challenging, but it's been great. It's been kind of fun to see the different avenues kind of taken off. But so I do want to say, we do have all this grass here, but the cattle that we are raising for beef are, most of them we raise from conception to slaughter, meaning either Kenny artificially inseminates the cow, or we use a bull that we have, and then we raise the calf the mother raises the calf for the first 7 months on pasture and grass, and then we will wean the calf, and they'll come to, if they're here or if they're out in the pasture at home, we'll bring them into the barn or to one of our steer lots, and then we'll start feeding them grain, and so they are grain fed. So most of what we raise are ours. We do supplement with buying some with some other farmers that raise the same way as we do, which is no hormones, no antibiotics, unless the animal is sick. I kind of always say it's just like my kids. I don't give them antibiotics every day, but if they're sick and they need it, they will get it. With that being said, I don't know the last time we've treated an animal with an antibiotic. So,
that's the same as my parents' practices. That's pretty common. Yeah.
So I just can't let an animal be sick. So, and with the butcher process, it all has a withdrawal time. So we can't process anything that has an antibiotic in it anyways. So the animal will have to stay on the farm until that antibiotic has run its course and is out of the animal. So I walked up here now, so I can just switch it around so you can see where where the hay is that we're cutting. It's not as exciting as cows, and sorry, I'm not home, but Kenny needed food and drinks. So so this has all been cut, and you can kind of, I don't know if you can see him, but he's way over there in the tractor. So this is more hay than we've ever cut on this farm. So I'm pretty excited about that, and the best weather we've had to do it. Last year it got rained on.
Finally a good hay season. I feel like farmers haven't had that for a really long time.
No, and it makes it very expensive to feed cows through the winter in Wisconsin if there's not a good hay season. So so we're very, very excited about this.
You do small bales?
We do large squares here,
Cool.
which are my favorite to feed. So if Kenny does most of the feeding, but I fill in when he has to travel for work. And large squares are just easier for me to grab flakes off to feed the cows than round bales. So
Awesome. Anyone have any questions for Sarah? Again, I don't think anybody on the call has a beef share, but we are recording, so we're gonna like upload this to the Facebook group so everybody can see it and learn a little bit about all our farms. But does anybody have questions? I'm sure we'll keep partnering with Sarah in the longer term. So maybe you don't have a beef share this year, but you might be able to get one next year. So yeah, feel free to shoot questions into the chat or unmute yourself and ask as well. And it can be questions for me or Sarah. I know Rami has hopped off, but I know some stuff about his farm as well. Cool. I'm going to give you all 1 minute to ask more questions, and then I'll probably head out and keep planting broccoli. Because again, Kyle is a slave driver. Won't stop. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining in. Super appreciate it. It's really fun to show the farm off. And I'm so excited a couple of our add-on partners could join in. I don't know what the August event is going to look like yet, but we are going to keep doing little virtual things every month until the season ends. Because if we can't have a fall party out here, I at least want you all to be able to see the farm changing through the seasons. Oh, Kevin is sending messages. Hold on. Are there questions? Someone might be typing. So I'm going to hold on 1 second. Oh, thanks, Carly. Carly says, so great to see the farm and other folks' farms. Thanks, Carly. But yeah, we will definitely keep doing this. I'll keep inviting our add-on partners so that folks you haven't met or seen their farms yet, they can join in. I know it's just really fun to see the full community. Kyle's mom is texting me that the Reutersdorf family loves my hat. Thank you. I do as well. Sun protection and style all in one. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining in. Really, really appreciate it. And hope you enjoyed seeing where your food comes from. Thanks, Sarah, for joining in. Have a great night. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.